March 22, 1916. The Atlantic approaches to the Bristol Channel. A battered, unarmed-looking tramp steamer wallows along at half speed, smoke trailing from a damaged funnel, a lone lifeboat crew rowing away from her in apparent panic. To the German submarine U-68 watching through her periscope, it is the easiest kill of the patrol, a crippled merchantman abandoned by her crew, worth a single shell to finish off and save a torpedo. The submarine surfaces, closes to point-blank range, and opens fire with her deck gun. The abandoned ship's steel screens drop away in an instant. Concealed behind them, 4 12-pounder guns that had been invisible seconds earlier open fire in a single coordinated broadside. Within minutes, U-68 is sinking. The merchant ship was HMS Farnborough, and the burning funnel, the rolling gate, the fleeing lifeboat had all been theatre. This is the story of the Q ship, the most elaborately deceptive weapon the Royal Navy ever built, and how ordinary-looking freighters became the deadliest trap in the U-boat war. By 1915, Britain faced a threat its surface fleet could not solve directly. German U-boats were sinking merchant shipping faster than it could be replaced, and a submerged submarine was nearly impossible for a warship to find, let alone destroy, with the sonar and depth-charge technology available in the war's early years. Worse, German U-boat commanders had learned that torpedoes were expensive and limited in number, so against unescorted, unarmed merchant vessels, they increasingly preferred to surface and sink the target by deck gun, saving their torpedoes for warships and heavily loaded targets. That preference was the vulnerability the Admiralty decided to exploit. If a U-boat commander believed his target was defenseless, he would come to the surface and expose himself. The Royal Navy's answer was to make warships that looked in every visible respect like exactly that kind of defenseless target. The conversion process was deliberately unglamorous. Ordinary tramp steamers, colliers, and small merchant vessels, many of them requisitioned rather than purpose-built, were fitted with concealed weaponry, small-caliber guns hidden behind collapsible bulwarks, torpedo tubes disguised beneath deck cargo, and in some cases a hidden torpedo tube built into a fake deckhouse. Crews wore no naval uniforms in daylight and rehearsed elaborate deceptions. The panic party, a group of sailors who would abandon ship in a convincingly disorganized lifeboat drill the moment a U-boat was sighted, designed to persuade the submarine commander the vessel was being deserted and posed no threat. Meanwhile, a second, smaller crew, sometimes called the White Watch, stayed hidden aboard at action stations, waiting for the U-boat to close the range. Ships were given misleading names and false registries, repainted between patrols, and even fitted with dummy funnels or deck cargo to alter their silhouette, so the same vessel would not be recognized twice by a wary U-boat commander. The entire concept depended on total, sustained deception. A single crew member breaking cover too early could cost the ship its one advantage. The tactic required extraordinary discipline from ordinary sailors under fire. Lieutenant Commander Gordon Campbell, who commanded HMS Farnborough at the sinking of U-68, had trained his hidden gun crews to remain motionless and silent behind their screens while the ship absorbed incoming shell fire from an approaching submarine, sometimes taking hits and casualties before the range closed enough to guarantee a kill. Revealing the guns too early meant the U-boat would simply dive and escape. Revealing them too late meant the Q-ship might be sunk before she could fire a shot. Campbell was awarded the Victoria Cross for his actions, one of several Q-ship commanders so decorated, recognition not for firepower, but for nerve, patience, and the willingness to let his own ship be shelled, in order to spring the trap at the exact right moment. If you're finding this deep dive into Royal Navy deception tactics interesting, subscribing takes a second and supports the channel. The results, measured across the war, were a mixed but historically significant record. Q ships are credited with sinking roughly a dozen German U-boats outright and damaging a further several dozen across the conflict. A modest tally set against the scale of the U-boat campaign. But their deeper effect was psychological. Once German U-boat commanders understood that any apparently unarmed merchant ship might be concealing guns, the entire calculus of surfaced gun attacks changed. Submarines became markedly more cautious about approaching straggling or damaged-looking vessels, preferring to torpedo from submerged range rather than risk exposure, which itself reduced the efficiency of Germany's anti-shipping campaign and pushed U-boat commanders back toward more conservative torpedo-only tactics. The Q-ship's true achievement was not its kill count, but the doubt it planted in every periscope sweep across the Atlantic. The cost was steep. Approximately 27 Q-ships were lost during the war, their crews accepting a level of risk few other naval postings demanded, deliberately absorbing enemy fire as a matter of doctrine. The legacy of the Q-ship extended into the Second World War, when the Royal Navy revived the concept on a smaller scale. Though by then improved U-boat tactics, radar, and greater German caution made the trap far less effective than it had been in 1916 and 1917. The core lesson endured regardless. An ordinarily equipped, unremarkable-looking vessel, crewed by men trained to display weakness convincingly, could function as a lethal weapon precisely because the enemy's own doctrine told him what to expect from a target that looked like this. The Q-ship was never about superior firepower. It carried guns no larger than any armed merchant cruiser. Its advantage was entirely psychological, built on the gap between what a U-boat commander believed he was looking at and what was actually waiting behind the collapsible bulwarks. The Royal Navy did not outbuild the U-boat threat with the Q-ship. It outthought it, one convincing lifeboat drill at a time.